I'm doing great. I'm doing great. This is David Wildstein. I'm the editor of the New Jersey Globe. I'm speaking with Patrick Murray. He is one of the most outstanding pollsters in the country, but he's a Jersey guy at heart and loves everything about New Jersey. So he did a poll from Monmouth University Polling Institute today on the second district race between Amy Kennedy and Jeff Van Drew. Patrick, if I could just ask you to just go through what you found there.
Well, I mean, we found Kennedy ahead, anywhere from 5 to 7 points, depending on what kind of electorate shows up there. But I mean, that's a pretty narrow range for a pretty good size of, a lead. The thing, one of the, that I wasn't sure what I was going to do, how many districts I was going to be able to do, because we're doing a lot of state races because of the president, the Senate. That's what's up for grabs. Nobody thinks that the House of Representatives is up for grabs, but obviously I want to do something in my home state. So I asked my friends on Twitter, which district in New Jersey would you want? New Jersey second, eked out the win, so everybody was happy with that. The only problem was I was already going to do New Jersey second. I just wanted to know what everybody else thought. But one of the reasons why I wanted to do it was it's one of those districts where I really don't have a good handle on what was going on there because of the party switch, because Van Drew had won that from, it was a Lobiondo district, so it was in Republican hands for many years, but Lobiondo was one of the most liberal members of the House in the Republican caucus. He had all that labor support. So it's a district that I didn't know as much about as opposed to, say, the 3rd or the 7th district, which I've polled many times before, have a pretty good understanding of what the electorate looks like there from year to year. And the only polls we were seeing out of here were Democratic polls. So Democratic polls had Amy Kennedy with a small lead, but we weren't seeing any Republican polls. What that usually means is that the Democrats feel that they're in better position than the Republicans. But I really wanted to confirm that to see if that was true. And my own polling suggests that, yes, in fact, Amy Kennedy does have a lead here. It's not an overwhelming lead. It certainly is not in the bag for her, but she is in the driver's seat right now.
So what does it mean when an incumbent 4 weeks away from an election, in an election where people have already started to vote and many voters have already cast their ballots, is still under 50%? What does that tell you?
Yeah, that's not good. That is not a good sign at all. Van Drew's favorability ratings are evenly split 40-40, with 20% who still don't know enough about him. That's typical for a member of Congress. But the fact that he doesn't have a net positive on his ratings overall is really problematic for him. The key that I think we're looking at in this district is a number of things that you have some Republicans who are still not sure about this party switch, despite the full-throated support of President Trump and the rally in Wildwood back in, I think, January, February, whenever that was. He's still he's at 89% with Republicans right now. So he doesn't have them fully locked in. Now they probably will lock in to the extent that they vote a straight party ticket because they're supporting President Trump. But the other thing that I think happened here is that his party switch sparked a lot of Democratic voters to turn out and vehemently turn out, and including independents who kind of lean one way or the other, leaning more Democratic, in part because of his party switch. It just doesn't sit well with some people. And I think there's enough that it really kind of helped, bring out the kind of vote for Amy Kennedy that we might not have seen otherwise if it was just any old Republican incumbent running in this district.
And this was a district that Donald Trump won by 4 points in 2016. Now you have him within the margin of error. You actually have Biden up 3.
Right.
So at this point, in your opinion, how heavily does the presidential election weigh on Jeff Van Drew's ability to win re-election?
It weighs a lot. I mean, we have seen in this media market some members of Congress who are able to outrun the president, Republican members of Congress. So I'm thinking of Fitzpatrick out in the 1st District of Pennsylvania, in Bucks County there, who's running well ahead in the polls and well ahead of how the president's doing in his district. In New Jersey, other than Chris Smith, that's what you got to do if you're going to win. as a Republican. You're going to have to outperform President Trump. And here's why. I mean, this is an Obama-Trump district, right? So that went for Obama twice in 08 and 2012, and then went for Trump in 2016. What that means, and what we're seeing with those kinds of districts, is that these are districts where a significant proportion of the voters out there aren't tied to partisanship. They are kind of anti-government voters, working class, don't feel that government has their back, and are looking for change. They voted for change in 2008. They stuck with Obama in 2012 because Romney was not an acceptable alternative. Then they went with Trump in 2016 because he represented change. But those voters are still feeling that kind of that still sense of uneasiness again, and I think that's why we're seeing this as this is not in the bag for President Trump, and it looks like Joe Biden could take this district back, as we're seeing in polling from other similar types of districts across the country.
So, knowing, and I know I'm never able to pin you down on anything other than the data that is in front of you, but I'll try. Is there anything you can extrapolate from the numbers in the second district that could give you any hint as to what might be playing out in the third district between Andy Kim and David Richter?
Yeah, I would say these numbers should be somewhat encouraging for Andy Kim, but again, there's enough of a unique quality that sets the second district apart because of Van Drew's party switch, that it's not clear whether the electorate that brought Van Drew into the Congress in 2018, it looks different this year, but it's not quite clear whether that's going to be the same in the third district. In the third district, we saw an electorate that looked a lot like a presidential electorate on both sides, Republican and Democrat. In the second district, this time around, we're seeing the potential for an electorate that looks more Democratic than it was in 2018. So that's why we really can't, bank on anything. So Andy Kim, not quite sure yet. I would say that probably based on a whole host of things, including the Trump numbers there, that would bode well for him. The one other competitive district in New Jersey where I think it does really help, these numbers are indicative of help for the incumbent, is up in the seventh with Tom Malinowski. Because of this anti-Trump sentiment that seems to be present in the second. We know it's always been bigger in the seventh, was bigger in 2018. That's why they swung hard. And I can't imagine after Donald Trump's spreading COVID in Bedminster last week, that it's going to get any better anytime soon. So I think that that probably bodes well for Malinowski especially. And
I saw Governor Murphy's numbers in your poll in the second district were fairly good, certainly in comparison to what we had seen or what all of us had been told about his approvals in South Jersey in 2019. Does this make Governor Murphy a effective spokesman for Amy Kennedy, who he supported in the primary, over the next few weeks?
It doesn't hurt her, is really what it boils down to. If Governor Murphy's at 50% approval rating in the second district, which is where we have him right now among likely voters, then he's significantly above 50% statewide, which is good news for him because we weren't sure where he was. The last poll I think that came out on him was months ago, had him in the 60s. I don't remember whether it was my poll or somebody else's poll, but had him in the mid 60s in terms of approval rating. There was some talk that about internal polling showing that his number is dropping, which they may have, but they're certainly above 50% statewide based on the second district numbers. Now, I'm not talking about Murphy. Your question was about Amy Kennedy. Look, David, I mean, I haven't seen, and I said this 2 years ago and a year ago, is that, Phil Murphy is going to be out there. He's going to lend his face to these campaigns, but he is not in any way, shape, or form going to help voters make up their mind one way or the other about this federal election. This is about what's going on in Washington. This is about Donald Trump. This is about Jeff Van Drew. It's not about Phil Murphy. But Phil Murphy, because he's not unpopular there, Amy Kennedy will invite him in, be part of the campaign, and he gets to take credit if she wins.
Mhm. So let me ask you one last question, because I know you're busy, and I really do appreciate you coming on this. But was there any bad news for Amy Kennedy in this poll?
No, we were looking at some things so that would suggest that, maybe the Kennedy name. That was one thing I was curious about, because I really didn't even know how many people even knew that name was related to the family in Massachusetts. And about 2/3 of voters actually knew that. So that word has gotten out there that she's married to a Kennedy. But the vast majority of voters say that's not part of the deal. I think she, looking at her numbers, particularly in Atlantic County, where she's from, really strong. So people see her as somebody who understands South Jersey just as well as said Jeff Van Drew does. So there isn't, like, Jeff Van Drew doesn't have that authenticity edge that maybe he hoped to have there. Amy Kennedy has it as well. I mean, both of them have, your typical South Jersey accent, which I know very well from having grown up not far from there. And I think that goes a long way to making the Kennedy name neither a positive or negative in this race.
Okay. Patrick Murray, director of the Monmouth University Poll, the gold standard of polls for New Jersey. Thank you very much. It is always a pleasure to talk to you.
Same here, Dave.
Thank you so much. Take care.
You too.